All right, well, it seems like the Pit SLC always has a new hot prospect, and this guy is unlike any of them. Noah Hambleton, who lit up the Masonic Temple back in November, he is back once again on January 24th. Noah, how you been, man? It's good to talk to you.
I'm good. How are you?
Doing wonderful. I think I want to kick things off right here and just talk a little bit about that performance in November, because obviously you had a spectacular debut. You bested it by 10 seconds. You had a 52-second knockout in the debut, I believe a 43-second knockout in the sophomore slate. That all being said, have you been able to watch it back, or how many times have you been able to watch it back?
Yeah, I've watched it a couple of times. I think my debut was kind of chaotic and really kind of a sloppy fight on my part. Like I got taken down a bunch. I got back up. I didn't really get punched, and then I knocked him out. But um, I didn't think it was excellent. But the second fight, I felt like I was in control the whole time, and it pretty much went exactly as I kind of had game planned it. I knew he was going to be a southpaw. I knew he might try to wrestle me, and so I just tried to pressure him forward. And I had a couple tools to keep him from changing levels on me, and got to use some of them. So that was good and it was fun.
I love the analysis on all that. That actually leads perfectly into my next question, which is you have a very, very distinct fight style. You are such a forward footed fighter, I guess I should say. And it's incredible to watch. But have you always had that style from day one in the gym?
Um, well. I feel like I'm a real work in progress. I've only been doing this for 2 years, really. Um, and so I feel like I'm still trying to figure some things out. But in terms of my choice to really try and be on the front foot, I think that's generally a good move for two reasons. Because moving forward, your body's designed to do that. Uh, Whereas moving backwards is more energy expensive. And if you're moving, you're going to end up doing this circular motion. And because if you're the further person out, the circumference is going to be larger. So you're going to have to do more moving and you're going to spend more energy. So that's one reason. And then two, it's obviously naturally easier to strike going forward. That's not saying like counter punching is prohibited or moving back is prohibited, but I think generally as a rule, moving forward is better because eventually your opponent's gonna hit the fence unless they can circle effectively. And once you hit the fence, your body is square rather than bladed. And even if you're a better striker, you've lost two directions because you're not really going to come forward into me and you're not going to go back. So you have two directions to go in and your body's squared up if you're on the fence. So I feel like that's a distinct decision I've made. I think it's almost, I mean, it depends, right? Israel Adesanya goes back all the time. Anderson Silva, I'm not them. And I don't think it was going to work for that fight. If there was a fight it would work for, I think I'd make the choice to do it. But for my fight with Julian, I think that was a good choice.
You say you've only been doing this a couple of years, but you laid that out beautifully. It sounds like you could teach a course about movement and things like that, which is pretty cool. You mentioned learning and kind of figuring these things out. Did it take a long time to understand that aspect of your game, or did it kind of come with time and kind of being in the gym? Did you not always used to be that way?
Yeah, actually, I think I think I used to go back a lot more. I mean, especially in a gym environment where a lot of times you're not gonna be in a cage and you're like the goal is not to win in the gym and it's to like learn. So working on countering was probably more important at the beginning. Um, yeah, I guess I don't know. I just kind of like Darian was
Yeah.
one person that gave me that advice to move forward and laid it out like that. And I think I agree with his analysis. Um, and I just think it works generally for the way I'm fighting and the way I'm built. Uh, but yeah, if there's a situation where it's going to be more advantageous to move backwards, I'm going to make the choice to do that. But for that fight, it worked very well.
There is a litany of talented prospects right around your same weight class, right around your same experience level. I think of Darian, I think of Talon. There's a handful of others. Are they your wingmen in the gym? How often are you working with those specific guys and others, and who are they?
Yeah, so this is one thing. Darian and Talon are two of my main training partners. Darian's even I would say probably one of my coaches, because he has his own gym, and I'll go out there sometimes and work with him, and his analysis, and another voice is great. In addition to, Ramsey and Dominico, um, it's good to have like another voice. And obviously, I think these guys are better than me. They've been doing this longer, and they're good. They're a little bigger, right? They're great for me to train with. That being said, yeah, at 155, I would love to fight Logan, but I would never fight my boys. I would never fight Darian or Talon, both because I think they could, like, I mean, fighting's a percentage game. I think you fight 100 times, you want to win most of them. That's when you accept them. You're like, if I fight 100 times, I'm gonna win most of them. Like the bravest fighters are when it's a toss up, when you think this is really a 50-50 match, you know. And if they fight 100 times, they're gonna win 50 times. They're gonna lose 50 times. That's how I see fighting, and that's an analogy from Floyd Mayweather, who obviously was undefeated. Um, it's boxing, and MMA is even more chaotic, but it's all a percentage game. You wanna have the highest possible percentage over your opponent. It's a real nobody's invincible.
Yeah.
So.
You mentioned Floyd, you've mentioned Israel Adesanya as well as Anderson Silva. Are you a big combat sports fan at large, and have you been for a long time, or is this something that has kind of, ignited over the past 2 years since you've been training?
Well, so how I got into MMA and combat sports, I joined the army, and in training, whatever. I got at one point I was a place called DLI, the Defense Language Institute, and my roommate there, who I had gone through basic training with as well. I mean, he's my best friend in the army. Joshua Bella, the guy's a genius. So this guy had like a master's degree in mathematics. Like he was a very smart individual. It's like, why did you enlist, brother? Like you could be, or you could be doing whatever. He had like a statistics job somewhere, and long story short, he was like just he's not a great employee. But yeah, um, just a very smart guy and kind of a nerd that you wouldn't think would be into MMA. But we shared a barracks room or whatever, and he got me into MMA. We would get drunk and watch fights basically, and yeah, so that's kind of how I got interested in it. My buddy, right before I joined the army, he's like, "Hey, you should start boxing." So I boxed for 3 months. I joined the army. I was in training, so I didn't really have time to do anything. And I was like, kind of made it like a in my head, like I was like, "Huh, I should pursue boxing." And then I started doing watching MMA with my buddy, and I was like, "This is kind of up my alley." I think I have because boxing, you know, it's a specific build that's going to do better most of the time, and I'm not exactly that, long and lanky and whatnot. But MMA, there's many more paths to victory, and I think that favors me more. So I kind of started doing that once I got out of the army.
When were you in the army? Like what years?
2017 to October 2020. I forget if it was 2022 or 2023. October 5th was my discharge date. It's got to be 2022, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
very that's
Or
very
no,
cool.
2020. I don't even know, man. I forget sometimes. Honestly, I have my fucking DD 214 right here. I'll just pull it up.
So that being said, I didn't realize that you were in the army. What kind of got you interested in enlisting in the army back in the day?
Um, I didn't really know what I was gonna do, and with my life or career or anything like that. Um, so I was like, I want to do something super meaningful, and so I wanted to be like an SF guy. And when I enlisted, I was 17, so they said you can't enlist as FS or SF right now as a 17-year-old. But we have this other intel route you can go, which will get you your secret clearance and all this stuff to set you up for that route. And I was Intel's cool. Language school was really cool, but once I got to actually doing that, like just writing reports all day, I was not good at writing reports all day. It was a very dull, monotonous thing. So I failed my report writing thing, and yeah,
Ended up in the army come out of it, and now you've basically been with the Pitt SLC ever since. Has Utah always been home base?
Yeah, Utah has, and actually, I wasn't. So when I got out of the army, I started training. My uncle told me about this gym. I was living up in Ogden. I
Okay,
trained for 3 months at One Hit MMA,
very cool.
and so those guys awesome. I really like a lot of the guys out of there. Head coach Aldo is the man. Chris, very nice individual, very good teacher, and I didn't know anything, and he was always very nice and good at teaching, So lots of respect to those guys. And then my dad killed himself, so I didn't do anything for like a year. Like I moved down here. I was living up there, and then I was like, all right, I'm gonna move in with my mom. So I moved in with her for a while, and came down here, and then my buddy was like, "Hey man, because I wasn't doing anything. Like I was laying in bed and just being sad. He's like, "Bro, you should come. You should come down to the pit. Ramsey's a funny guy. Da 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 da. He was in the UFC, so I watched some of his fights. And the first day, I go to the pit, whatever. It's Kevin Holland. Kevin Holland is there because it's when the UFC came.
Mhm.
So there was Kevin Holland was there. Pereira was there. I mean, like these savages, and I was like, I don't belong here at all. Like I'm like a normal guy. I don't really have a lot of experience in this kind of thing. What am I doing here? And then I remember I sparred. It was like sparring day, and I was like, all right, whatever. I guess I'll see what's up. I had a bunch of good rounds, and there's one guy, Thomas. He's one of our like he's probably 6'3" Muay Thai guy, and we just battled. And I remember Kevin Holland went, Jesus, and I was like, yeah, dude, I wasn't going in for this either, man. Kevin Holland's a funny guy. Um, yeah. So and then from there, I was just kept coming, and yeah, just trying to learn and get better.
We heard in your post-fight interview about the story of your dad. How much has his impact meant to you in terms of your fighting career? Obviously, you walk out and you have the firefighter hat as well as the work boots. Is that all an ode to your dad?
Yeah, yeah, it is. I think like, in terms of being a gifted athlete, my dad was a much more gifted athlete than me. I mean, he was, like he could have if he would have like battened down and decided to do any like sport, like he would have been the best at it for sure. Like he was just talented in that way. And so whenever I compete, like any, power athleticism I have, that's not even me, that's my dad. And I like to just I don't even know wear the helmet, just try to like channel that. And for me it's like, let's do something. Let's show people to keep fighting, to not quit. Because like I mean, even today, like just in sparring, you know, so Ramsey, my head coach, has been taking me to sparring. My car just broke down, so we had some practice today, and there was some guys in I had never seen before, and we were sparring, and I just was getting crushed, just crushed, and I was like, this is ridiculous. I was getting frustrated, like upset, really. Come to find out, they're like Olympic boxing dudes. I mean, they're savages, and I was like, oh man, these guys are on the level, whatever. But just, whatever you're doing and in life, to keep going, even if it's not fighting, to just stay engaged with life, keep fighting, don't quit. And that's kind of the message like I want to carry. Like I mean, I'm doing this because I like it. But if I ever one day have the opportunity to influence somebody who's, they want to quit, like if they can just get their head up, you know, and say I'm gonna keep fighting, like that'd be good.
Yeah.
So that's kind of why I do that stuff. Like and I want my dad, to see, hey, I'm gonna keep fighting. I'm gonna keep going, you know.
You mentioned being at One Hit MMA. I'm curious, did you ever get to cross paths with a Cole Faust and Ammon Garcia, Zach Partridge, who runs Fierce Fighting Championship? Did you ever get the chance to train with them in your infancy in MMA?
Yeah, that's what I meant, not Chris, Cole.
Okay.
Yeah, so Cole, he is an admirable guy. Yeah. Um, yes, I did, and they're great. And honestly, like I mean, especially at the time, I didn't have a lot of business do like I mean, I just wasn't on their level. And probably, I mean, still am not. Those guys are pros. Ammon is a savage. I mean, we've seen that in his fights. I forgot that Hispanic dude he fought. I watched
Mhm.
that fight a little while ago. I mean, just brutal. He fought Ricky Mamone's brother.
Mhm.
That was an insane fight. Like, and he's just screaming at the end. Like, the dude's a savage. I really respect him. And Cole is obviously just a technical monster and a really nice guy. And yeah, obviously Zach, I was trying to, learn grappling, and grappling is, I think, far more complex than striking. And so that's a long road. And I remember, he was Zach would explain things to me, and these other guys, and he'd be like, "Here, try to get out of this half guard or whatever." I remember that specifically, and just laying on my back and trying to work. He's like, "Yes, you have potential, but do better."
Has it been rewarding now, a couple years removed from all those experiences to now being, a 2-0 amateur? A lot of people are looking at you as one of the top guys, up and coming, I should say. Has it been rewarding to see that process over the years and you really become, a top fighter in the state?
The reward is training. Like I would train either way. I mean, training is what I do this for. Like I need to train. It's something that gives me I guess maybe purpose or more drive. I feel like it's something that I as a person need to do. I just don't feel good if I don't. As far as winning fights and whatever, fights are cool, but it's really training is the fun part. Fights are I'm gonna keep doing them, but sometimes it's just like you're in a movie and you're just
Yeah.
kind of watching yourself fight, and it's cool, but I just want to keep training, and yeah, if fighting is just a byproduct of my training, and so if I fight good or don't fight good, the reward is the training. If I win fights, if I don't win fights, the reward is doing something excellent and trying to be the best at it that I can be, regardless of competition.
You became a dad very recently. Was that in between fight one and two, or when did the baby come along?
Yeah, in between fight one and two.
Okay. Very
Yeah,
cool.
September 4th.
September
So
4th. Very
shortly
cool.
after the second fight. Yeah. I was gonna fight again. I was talking to Zach about it, and my wife was like, "No way, that's way too close." And it would have been like a week from my baby. My baby would have been born like a week before, so it's a
Oh
good
man.
thing I listened.
Yeah.
'Cause yeah, that would have been rough.
That
But
that's
yeah,
awesome.
honestly, that's the thing I'm really most proud of is having a newborn, training, working, doing all this thing, and keeping a good relationship with my wife and daughter and being there for them and also being able to do this. That's probably like win or lose. Like that's what I'm most proud because that's harder than anything, bro. Weight cut and like try not to fight with your family. Like it sucks.
One thing I really wanted to talk to you about was we saw you at weigh-ins and just talking to you right now, such a personable, nice guy. You flip that switch when you're getting ready to go into a fight. Do you
Yeah.
realize that, or what is that kind of makes you flip that switch? Obviously, you're about to get into a fight, but how is that process for you to change?
Yeah, I think being emotional when you're trying to make good decisions in life and in fighting is hard. Like, I mean, imagine, the last time maybe you fought with your partner. Were you upset? Or were you whatever, Uh, emotions have no place. Like in my weigh-ins, we're not fighting right then. I'm just gonna be nice to my opponent. Sure, I can if somebody was gonna try and be all crazy, I mean, I believe Fedor said this. Fedor, if you look at all his face-offs, people can be getting crazy with him, and he's just staring down at the chest, just calm. And that's what he says. Fighting is about being calm and making good decisions. And in sparring, whenever I get emotional, when I get upset, when I feel like I'm losing, I make worse decisions. I spar worse. I learn less. So yeah, and then when I get in the cage, it's serious, but I'm never like mad or like sure it's an aggressive thing inherently, but it's not about being aggressive. It's about completing the task. So whatever the task is pretty much the only thing that exists in there. That's one thing Customato said to Mike Tyson, like when he would hypnotize him, he'd like be like, "You don't exist. The task is the only thing that exists." And so when I'm in there, it's a kind of peaceful, surreal. There's not a lot of experiences I've ever had like it. Really almost an out of body experience. I'm not really actively making decisions, like rarely. Like I hear corner advice. Like I've made probably two decisions in both my fights. Like in my first fight, I was up against the fence, kind of in like a half guard position, holding his arm, just kind of stalling in the position till I could wait for him to move and then move. And they were like, take his back, and I was like, yeah, I should do that. And so I did. And that was one decision I made. And then in my other fight, I was kicking him in the body a bunch of times, like, and it had landed probably 5 times, 6 times maybe. And so I was like, I'm gonna try and kick him in the face. And I didn't know it had landed until I like my toe like weeks later, like it was like the ring finger or the ring toe like was swollen up. So I was like, I don't even know if I stubbed this because it didn't hurt and I didn't feel it in the moment. Whereas in my first fight, when I kicked the guy in the face, I really felt that in the moment. But in that fight, I was like, he made a reaction like that really startled him, but I'm not sure if it hit. And that's when I went forward and finished the fight. But we trained the other day, me and Julian Gomez, a couple weeks ago, and so I asked, "Hey, did that land?" And he was like, "Yeah, that landed." And I was like, "Oh, cool." So those are like pretty much the only two decisions where I had a thought and I was like, let me act on this. Other than that, just being calm and I having the game plan I've already set out, I've already visualized. Like I'm like a train on tracks. Like we're just gonna keep chugging forward, stick to the game plan. If we need to make adjustments, whatever, but mostly just try to stay calm.
What was that like being able to train with Julian Gomez? I saw that online. Obviously, after the
Yeah,
fight you
we
guys had.
so we didn't train too crazy. I had an injury, so I couldn't really. It was like shadow sparring. And I really wanted to get some wrestling in with him because he's a good wrestler, obviously better than me at wrestling because that's his background. He has some history doing that. So I really wanted to get that, but I just had this injury that I couldn't really do that. But we did some shadow sparring and it was great. He's a really friendly guy, really nice guy. He said he told me he might go down a weight or he will go down a weight class. He's like, yeah, bro, because I was talking to him. We're talking about the weigh-ins, whatever. Like I don't walk around at 145 pounds, not at all.
Yeah.
But he does, and I was like, oh man, well you should maybe consider at least going, the 10 pounds. He's like, yeah, even though he looks like a muscular big guy, he walks around 145. So that was interesting. I didn't know that at all. But really a respectful, nice guy. He has a respectful team, Tooele MMA. It was good to meet those guys. And yeah, yeah, I'm probably gonna have him cut my hair. He's a barber. So I think before the next fight, I was talking to him on Instagram just barely. I think I'm gonna get him to cut my hair.
Jacob Baird, obviously the opponent on January 24th. With your analysis, how do you see that fight going? And more than anything, just what are you looking forward to in that one?
Yeah, Jacob Baird. I trained with him once at Darian's gym, and I think we were doing some stuff maybe he wasn't as familiar with, and so I didn't ever have any idea that I would fight him because he walks around 145. Because I asked, I was like, "Hey man, you want to do a catch weight bout? Because it's the holidays." I DM'd him. I was like, I snuck into his DMs with a little, "Hey man, you want 150 maybe?" Because yeah, I didn't want to. My grandma was like, "Eat this food," and I'm like, "No, no Christmas pudding." So I actually asked him about it, and yeah, so I never thought I was gonna fight him. But I mean, look at the guy's record. Look at his matches in Muay Thai, his MMA matches. I mean, he's good. Like I didn't think really about his skill set whenever I trained with him, but watching his fights, I mean, he's kicking people's faces in, man. I mean, he's doing really good work out there, and definitely by far the most skilled and dangerous opponent I'm gonna have to face. Like obviously, he knows how to wrestle. He has really slick, from what I've seen, jujitsu. Like I mean, I think I forgot what fight, but I was watching one of his fights. He just throws this Darson on this dude just so quick, and the dude was like a national wrestler or something. So definitely he has threats everywhere, and I'm gonna have to evade those and try to make my game plan, you know, uh what's happening instead of letting him do his game plan. And but yeah, he's a scary guy, and I'm excited to fight him.
I think one stat that really flies off for you specifically, Noah, is the fact that both of your fights have ended in under a minute, and you make quick work of these guys. And I think I already know the answer, but I'd love to hear your take on it. How prepared are you for this to potentially go into deeper rounds? Because, like you said, Jacob Baird is, I would say, for my money, the best guy you've ever faced.
Yeah, totally. And that is a scary thought too, right? Because I know I'm really explosive and all that, and that's awesome, right? You see these guys like, man, they're jacked, they're going, and everybody thinks that's a great thing, and it is a great thing. But I don't know how closely you track the UFC, but Fluffy Hernandez versus Michel Pereira. When they fought, Michel Pereira is an athlete. He is like Fluffy was talking about it after the fight. He's like, I was doing techniques on him like textbook, and they simply weren't working because of how strong this guy was. But Fluffy just essentially like made him clinch, made him work. And with really explosive guys, you can really wear them out doing that kind of a thing. And so, being aware of energy conservation is, I think, hugely important. And it's one of the things I'm most scared of. I don't know. Have you ever seen Dominico fight? That's a guy I spar regularly. And man, if you spar, one time I showed up to sparring and he was the only one there. And this was probably a year ago. So I was still less experienced, and it was just me and Dominico did 10 rounds, and he's a cardio monster. So I'm ready to deal with a cardio monster. I know, metabolically being an explosive athlete, what I need to do to not gas out. But man, when I go with Dominico, I feel like Yoel Romero. I just like just breathing hard. But yeah, and I honestly, if I was Jacob, that's what I would do. Like I would try to get me tired for sure. I think that is his best route to victory. Absolutely, hands down. Like clinch me, make me work, you know. That's
It,
just yeah.
it is going to be an incredible fight. Jacob Baird, Noah Hambleton. For people who don't know, that is one you have got to circle on your program. Noah, absolutely cannot wait for it. We're really looking forward to seeing you return to the Fierce Cage. Any sponsors, any friends you want to give a thank you to? And on top of that, how can people support you in this journey in this camp?
Yeah, so sponsors AR Bully, American Bullies. They if you're looking for an American bully, they do the purebreds. I don't know a lot about it, but I think it's cool. They got some cool merch. Check them out. And Otishi, shoes and apparel. Really awesome company. Supporting kids in Peru and stuff like that. That's where they're from. Um and great company, cool stuff. Check them out. Obviously, my coaches, my friends, my family. So yeah, for my coaches, the Pit SLC, Darian's Empower Fitness, not Empower, Jacob Baird's gym, Empower with an EM. Um, kind of confusing. And then I go to 10th Planet Jiu Jitsu occasionally. So 10th Planet Salt Lake City. Boom. Uh, Yeah. Oh, and thanks to Jacob for taking the match and giving me something to be scared of, to think about at night.
It's going to be a good one. Noah Hambleton, Jacob Baird, January 24th, live from the Masonic Temple. Cannot wait for it. Noah, thank you so much.
Thanks, brother. Bye bye.